Hello everyone, it's Koos here. Welcome to the book show. I'm going to talk about Codename Swan 53, which is a fascinating book. And for me personally, that's the first one I wrote actually after I met my wife Rebecca. And the reason for the name Swan 53 is she was 53 years old when we met. I was 51. And she was still in Switzerland. I was in South Africa, a place called Bloemfontein. I was taking care of my mom, and I can tell you, it's a bit of a strange one there because most people in Bloemfontein don't speak the English. So they would like even me sound good in English because they just don't. So it's in the middle of a free state. I went to university there for 5 years, and I did my law school there, which was another 6 months, and I did my articles there. Yeah, it took almost 6.5, 7 years to become an attorney in South Africa. And then I left home and I came back and I stayed 8 years in Bloemfontein again, taking care of my mom. To be quite honest with you, it's not that I had much of a choice in South Africa. In case you people don't know it, there's something called affirmative action. Affirmative action or revenge of the dark people. Because if you're white and you're male and there's a job available, you won't get it. You won't get it unless you have a token appointment somewhere. It doesn't matter what qualifications you have, doesn't matter what experience you have, totally doesn't matter. I will first look for a black woman, then an Indian woman, then a colored woman, then a white woman, then a black man, and so it goes on. But last on the list is a white male. You know, white male are not allowed to work in that country, shouldn't work. And of course, that caused a lot of immigration, including myself. And it caused a lot of hardships. Many men had to find out that the moment he wasn't earning, his wife was not that in love with him anymore. Yeah, sadly so, man. Sadly so. It never worked. Let me tell you something about affirmative action. There is not a single place in the world where affirmative action ever worked. Ever, ever. They tried it in the US, they tried it in Europe, they tried it in South Africa, they tried it everywhere and it all flipped and failed. Because it's against the laws of justice. It's against the laws of natural justice. It makes sure that those people not qualified actually gets the job. And then, of course, there's resentment and good people don't get promoted. You can see that in the police, also especially where you see that many qualified people will never become higher than a captain rank, which for a military type organization, it's not really military anymore. But let me say it's a fairly low rank in the police. It's not like in the US sheriffs where a captain might be something important. In actual fact, in the police in South Africa, it's not important at all. But most white people would actually stop at warrant officer rank. Yes, you would have here and there somebody who got promoted. Don't know how. Don't care actually. That's by the grace of God and nothing else, I suppose. But anyway, so I was in Bloemfontein. I was stopped there and I was taking care of my mom, and I don't regret one day of doing that. I'll do it again if I have to. And that's where most of these books were actually written. Because I had time. So there's virtually nothing else to do. I would get up at 6 in the morning and eat breakfast, make sure my mom has something to eat and a cup of coffee, and then I would go to my room and I would close the door and I would sit there typing until 10 at night. Just going out for, perhaps to eat something or go to the toilet or whatever. And that's how the books were written every 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most. Would publish a 300-400 page book. Looking back, that was probably not the best way of living, but that's how it worked out for me. So I have a lot of sympathy with artists and things. Really, I do. I paid my dues. And then 4 years after Melissa died, I knew there was somebody waiting for me somewhere, and I knew that I have to do something to get hold of her because she's looking for me, but I'm not really looking for her. And if you're like that, you can almost disappear, because you don't exist. You don't mix with people. You are totally, virtually on your own. Nobody knows where you are, what you do, how you live, whatever. And so I took a chance, man. I went on the same website where I met Melissa, and I read through all these dating sites, and I didn't have money for the paid version, so I went through all the different profiles, and I knew exactly what I was looking for. I knew it would speak to me. Now I think that's one of the things when you're dating is actually rejection is one of the best ways to date, because you're at the age and you know what you want. And if you don't know what you want and you're at my age, then man, then there's something wrong with you. You really ought to think about this. But anyway, so I read the first lines there. It was something like, I met my late husband on this very website, and then I knew, and then I looked at the name and I saw it's Rebecca. And most of you who's been following the program or have been reading the books would know that the word Rebecca has a very, very certain meaning, specific meaning in the GMJ books. Because in the books there are these triplets, 3 of them, who are part of the book, all the books of the entire series. In fact, they are busy there with helping and assisting Israeli women, young women, based upon real people. Obviously, their names are not really Rebecca, but that's what I called them in the book, because I thought, well, that's the most Jewish name I can think of. Esther, yeah, but Esther, I don't know, doesn't sound nice to me. Rebecca, yeah, something rings about that name, and let's take Rebecca. And so we took Rebecca, and the rest, as I say, is history. But the Rebecca in the books got nothing to do with Rebecca, my wife. Let me just be clear about that. But obviously, when I looked at that, I knew. And the next sentence said something like, prove to me you're not a scammer. Now, yeah, that I can quite understand. I mean, especially if you're from the so-called third world, which South Africa isn't really third world, by the way. It's in between. If you go to a place like Cape Town or some parts of Johannesburg and Pretoria, you would be really surprised at what you see. I mean, it looks like Las Vegas, I suppose, or any other city. It's modern. It's where it works. But sadly, since the new lot took over, that stopped working too. It's not really working anymore. Cape Town is still working, but there's a reason for that. There's certain people in charge, the opposition. So that is why it's actually working. So I fully understood when a friend suddenly started warning her, and one had a goal to actually contact me and to demand that I sent him a copy of my passport. And you know what? And I actually did that. And I even sent her copies of my degrees because I quickly realized she wouldn't have a degree. She ain't that bright. But anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, it's actually quite hard when you are quite poor. If I take away your income for about a decade, I wonder how rich you will be after that. Probably as poor as I was. And then, of course, you start dating somebody with a lot more money than what you are. But, love finds always a way. And we quickly realized that there's something strange happening to Rebecca in Switzerland, in Swineland. And that is that wherever she went, there seemed to be swans following her, like the birds, swans, and white swans. And they're quite big birds, actually. And after I went to Swineland, and I really didn't like the place at all. I did see quite a few of them, and it's quite pretty. If I can find pictures, I'll put one for you here. And of course, swans are seen as the messengers of God. It's just mythology. Not really, of course not. But, if you're romantic, you can think like that. And so I decided to call the book Swan 53. But it really has nothing to do with Rebecca. There is also a book called Rebecca 65, but I will talk about that too. So anyway, that's where the name comes from. And so what's the book about? Now, in this book, it's a long book, by the way, 527 pages. We do discuss a lot of things, but I will touch just here and there. I don't want to reveal too much because then you have no desire to actually read the book. It's not about the money for me. I mean, the money I make on the books is so little I couldn't care less. We find we don't need. But obviously there are messages in the book which I want you to read. And so it is important to me actually. So what the book is about is that Angelique is in a C-130 Hercules, one of a private Air Force aircraft. She's piloting it. And she's flying towards a clandestine meeting where she wants to meet with other spymasters. Now, why is it clandestine? Because in the first place, everything you do in the shadows in the spy world is actually clandestine. It is covert. It's even if you go to a toilet, man, it's covert. Everything, and you will classify absolutely everything as secret, even if it isn't. You know, because it's just the mindset. The mindset's like that. But the problem which Angelique is that she wants to meet with Israeli and French and British spy masters. And the problem with that is South Africa is not a NATO-orientated country. They are the enemies of NATO. So in other words, they are part of BRICS. And they are part of BRICS, as I've showed in so many videos to you, and I still have to see a single Western analyst to actually pick up that point, even though I want a few of them in writing. Go and look where the BRICS countries are. Go and look where these countries are situated physically. Then look at the sea routes which goes past them. And then start clicking that you are being surrounded. Yes, US of A. Yeah, you, the second piece of the Bible. Yes, read Oath of Evil, you'll know why I call you that. And then you will see you're actually already surrounded. Yeah, we can cut the trade to you. It's not actually Daddy Trump which can threaten everybody and they'll come and lick his ass, and the taxpayer in the US will, of course, they just pay 50 or 100% or 145% more what he used to pay. It will be the end of Amazon and quite a few other of these businesses will be gone once your trade war actually kicks off properly. Yeah, but you know, you people don't care, do you? You don't care because you're not paying the price yet, but you will. And BRICS is actually a very, very powerful organization. It's really big. Got the most people in the world there, and much stronger economically speaking than the Big Seven. So yeah, so if we tell you you're fighting a losing battle, man, but anyway, do what you want. I don't care. The problem is, even though Angelique is friends with these people, since they are enemy organizations, she has to do it clandestinely. So she basically took the aircraft and she's flying somewhere to conduct an operation. She's not really saying much. And that's a problem with Angelique in the books, is she never says much. So you don't really know what Angelique is up to now. For you, the reader, it's not a big deal, but for us, we had to take care of her and follow her orders. It was actually a very big deal because she only revealed what she thought you should know. And so it's very possible that you come back from some kind of adventure or mission or whatever you want to call it, frightened to death half of the time. You still don't really know what happened. I mean, if you work like a courier and you just drop something for someone and you disappear again, you've got no clue why. And then other people will come and carry out, and then sometimes you would find like a weapons cache or something somewhere in some country, and you find a sign, you will find a signal. I mean, like the guys who actually planted it, they would leave some kind of a mark or some kind of a message there for you. In the book, the two other characters, Foxtrot and Veldsang, would always leave two toffees. Now, that's a South African joke. If you leave somebody a toffee, it means you show the old sign, you know. Angelique too had the way of doing it. She had a certain type of suite she would she would leave at these places. So if you get there afterwards and you would figure out that at some stage these people would have been here. And since the banknotes would be wrapped in newspaper, you could look at the newspaper and see, okay, this cachet is say 5 years old. Unless Angelique, of course, used fake newspapers. Yeah. Actually, go to Codename Moonlight, which is a book I think I spoke about before already, where you can see how they actually approach such a weapon cache and what's inside it and how they booby-trapped it and how you disarm it, how they try to keep the wild animals away. After all, it's Africa. That's also a book, of course, where Angelique did a parachute jump and she's trying to impress Foxtrot, and so she, I don't know why, but she tried to stay on her feet instead of just rolling like she should, like you're trained to do. And of course, she dislocated her knee or something, and he has a lot of sympathy. Like, not really, but it is a woman which she loves. So that is why she's doing it clandestinely. And but it's not clandestine enough, because what happens is, as they were flying and they get close to northern KwaZulu-Natal, almost on the border with Mozambique, air traffic control contacts her and asks her if she can just, divert course and just see if she can act as a relay between a sinking ship and the rescuers. And of course, since she has fuel and you can't really say no to air traffic control, it's a reasonable request. She does that. She turns the aircraft, she flies out into the Indian Ocean, and she flies right into a trap. Yeah, she flies into all sorts of nonsense, because suddenly her aircraft starts behaving strange. She's subjected to sonic weapons, which we're going to talk about. There's heavy jamming going on. There's all sorts of shenanigans until she decides that she'll declare an emergency and she just turns back. But by now she's flying basically blind. And so she's flying to the emergency runway at Mkuze, at northern KwaZulu-Natal. It's actually there. Yes, you can go and look. It is actually there. But she can't just land. But she doesn't want to just land. She wants to make sure that there's nothing on the runway, because it's obviously closed at night. There might be elephant, or there might be cattle or whatever there. And it's not a helicopter, a C-130. You come in, you better be able to see where you land. And your lights ain't that strong enough. It will reflect against a car or something, but not necessarily an animal. So they never fly without parachutes anyway. So she drops Foxtrot, who's later her husband, and the one who's actually writing these stories, looking back from his old age of his life with his wife. Man, there's a horrible mosquito flying here. It's monsoon here in Phuket, so whenever a little bit of sun comes out, the mosquitoes comes as well, and they really bite. So if you see me trying to kill it, don't worry about it. So anyway, he jumps down. They drop him over the airfield, and when he lands there, he realizes immediately he's not alone at this airfield. Angelique's mates from Mossad is waiting for her there. Now, there's also the French spy agency people there as well. Old friends of them, but in that world, you don't know if these people are actually what they want to do with Angelique or not. As I explained to you, she's technically not friends with them. As a BRICS country, she would actually see them as the enemy, but as we know as the reader, she is a penetration agent for France. So the chances of them wanting to hurt her is actually very slim. But they don't know, because at this stage, all they know is this aircraft has been ambushed in some way. They are subjected to these all sorts of horrible things, and there's not a lot of trust going on here. So anyway, it also turns out that the people she actually also wants to meet after or before she met with his, or after she met with his spymasters is a bunch of radicals. She actually wants to pick them up and bring them back to South Africa where they can be protected. Now that is something which is going to bite that country in the ass at some stage, because it is well known that, say, the London 2005 tube bombing of the trains, that was planned according to Wikipedia and those places in southern Africa. In fact, it was planned in Fortsburg, Johannesburg. Yes. And you should read the books because I speak about it quite often, where I describe the Muslim Truce, and I will do a special episode of that as well. Now, the problem here is also that Angelique's not just going to agree to hand these people over, because there is the spirit of Ubuntu going on. Now, the spirit of Ubuntu is something I will talk about just now, but it is really important. It's a really, really important thing which started, long before Mr. Mandela spoke about it, but it comes down to the fact that if you allow somebody into your tribe, then you have to take care of that person, even against his enemies. Does it always work like that? Yeah, other parts of the world too. But I will get to that. I will get to that. But so anyway, that's what the book is about. It's basically these people trying to force Angelique to land in a certain place because they want to speak to her before she sees these radicals. And why they can't just call her or leave a damn message and tell her to meet her somewhere as was originally arranged, I don't know. You'll have to read the book. They always play these games, there's always something happening in the background. Anyway, so it's a very interesting story, but what we want to discuss in the book is, like I said, is the principle of Ubuntu, because there were a lot of things, strange things in the new South Africa, I can tell you. I remember how shocked I was when Mr. Mandela was actually released. A lot of you foreigners here will, of course, not have a lot of sympathy with that, and perhaps you shouldn't. But for us who really believed in the system and who grew up in the system, and we were told by our dominees, who was like a priest, like a reverend father, a churchman. All of them, our parents, everybody, our generals, our political leaders, every single one of them said to us that we were right and the rest of the world was wrong. It's very much like Israel is doing right now. Everybody is saying to them, guys, you can't do what you're doing. You're committing war crimes. You're committing genocide. I don't agree with the genocide story, by the way, myself personally, but that's what's being said. And they are like, no, you don't understand. We are right, you are wrong. End of you, F you. And they just form up a lager. In other words, they don't want to hear anything else. Their eyes and ears are closed to any other opinion. And if you give any other opinion, then of course you're an anti-Semite. It doesn't matter if you're married to a Jewish woman or you have Jewish grandparents, or you actually in your books you are very sympathetic to them, or you actually worked with them and you assisted them numerous times. Doesn't matter, you're anti-Semite. Yeah. It lost its shock value by now, because everybody who says something is an anti-Semite. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because many of the people who was actually speaking out are Jews. So how the hell can you call them anti-Semite? It just doesn't work like that. But in our case in South Africa, if you started becoming reasonable to us, you're either a damn liberal or a takar, which means a hippie. Because all these liberals had long hair, And we had short hair because we were in the services, we were fighting. And the other thing which we would say is we would call them a kofferboetie, which is, forgive me for using these words, it's like a nigger lover. I think you can call it like that. Uncle Tom, I suppose, the Americans will understand that type of language. Because we sincerely believed. We believed, and as it happened, it turned out we were not actually wrong. The moment that we handed over political power after winning every single battle on the battlefield, of course we were wiped out. There's less than half of us left in South Africa now. You find South Africans right across the world. You now find them fighting in the British Army, US Army, French Army, the Foreign Legion. Man, you find them everywhere. Russia, you have South Africans fighting in the Russian Army. But because they left. Our doctors, our engineers, our educated people, they just left. And they left because of affirmative action, and of course, they left because of a lot of crime and violence, and I wouldn't call it terrorism, not yet. I wrote books about this as well, Safety Net, go and read it if you're interested. But it's really an abnormal country right now. It's got a non-functioning police. It's got a judiciary which is, not what it used to be, but still better than other countries. And of course, now it became a BRICS country. So yeah, but the policy of Ubuntu is something which came from Mr. Mandela. And as I said, I was very shocked when the man was released. Of course, later on, I worked as a human rights attorney at the human rights law firm where Mr. Mandela was represented since the 1960s. So I had the honor and the privilege to actually see him at close range. And Nelson Mandela impressed the hell out of me. He still does. And I know there's a lot of people who will call me now a Kaibuti, that type of thing, or an in-lover or whatever. Yeah, he can do that. But I knew the man. In a sense, I was there. I dealt with his family. I dealt with him. I was treated very well. Lots of stories I can tell you, which sadly I can only tell you over a braai somewhere, a barbecue, a beer for you and a glass of water for me. I don't drink, 7-day Adventist. I don't even drink coffee. To fix your brain, fix your judgment. Yes, do some research. You'll be surprised. Don't tell me Jesus drank wine. There's a difference between fermented grapes and non-fermented. Yeah, it's not the same thing. One has alcohol, the other one doesn't. But anyway, that doesn't matter now. The point is, I was impressed with Mr. Mandela, and I will never say something bad about the law firm which I was at. I learned a lot. I had some good fun there. I had good friends there. And then I'd have to do my own thing. Now, to make a long story short, I recall before Mr. Mandela even took over, the late and the last apartheid minister of foreign affairs, a guy called Pickwater, was an absolute bloody drunk most of the times. Nothing smart about him, nothing clever about him. I do at my Legacy Conversation show, where we speak to the military veterans and police veterans and the spies, we can get hold of him. I do actually want to speak to his bodyguards, because I will tell you about stories about a man who actually, apparently, according to them, so he told me in private, was beating his wife. He couldn't keep his prick in his pants. He was doing everything in sight. And he was drunk. He had a seriously drinking problem. Now, yeah, of course, most politicians are like that. That's why we call them the third brigade. But I recall when he actually said, at some stage he said, yeah, I've made peace or something with the idea that we're going to change our national anthem. Yes, he disappeared almost completely. And we're going to change our flag. And we're going to give up our Afrikaner culture. Yeah, that he didn't say, but that came out anyway. And I was so shocked because, we bled for our flag. And we saluted our flag. We died for our flag. Even though you people might call it an apartheid flag and you are very horrible about it, let me tell you, we were honorable people. We fought as honorable as we could. Let me say to you, there's a lot of stories about how many of these freedom fighters and resistance people, anti-apartheid people actually died in police custody. I did a study on that. It's actually in my books. Go and read Mean Streets. I believe Mean Streets 1 and Mean Streets 2 of the Afrikaans version, Gewetenlose Strate. Lewe in die apartheidspolisie. Ja, go and read those books. It turns out that only about 62 or 65 people died since 1961 to 1989, almost 28 years, died in police custody. 65, of which they are political detainees now. And most of them actually died of natural causes. They were not murdered. They were not killed. They were not tortured to death. They were not fed to crocodiles, as happened at Uganda and other places. And if you take those statistics, and you put them against the US state of Texas, and you put it a place like Australia, and I'm speaking out of my head now, you'll have to go and read the books. You'll find out that I think in Texas, something in that period of time, something like it's unbelievable. I think it's 15,000 people died in detention. Yeah. And I often remind you in my books that, your FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Clinton Whitewash Bureau, or the ones who supported what's that crap? What do I hear? Russia hoax, Russiagate, yeah. And just a few days ago, the CIA came out and they said, no, there were no such thing as Russia hoax. Russiagate never happened. It was a few of our top leaders who actually lied and they manipulated the evidence, which was never there. Yeah. Interesting country you have, eh? But the apartheid police and the KGB and the Gestapo of Nazi Germany, you know what they couldn't do? You know what we could not do? With all our power, with all our superb, I suppose, record of violence and what have you, all the bad things you say about us. Yeah. You know that we cannot arrest somebody if he lies to us. No. Theoretically, I suppose you can say it is wasting the police time or whatever, but won't stand in court. Really not, because a criminal is sort of expected to lie to you, Why wouldn't he? And the same with a terrorist, and same with a prisoner of war. He's supposed to do that. It's not a big deal. But the US of A, or the FBI, is the only country in the world. Not Russia, not China, no communist country, not Cuba. Flippin' nowhere else do you find such laws. You also find nowhere else laws where you can actually get a warrant to listen in on somebody. And if somebody then calls that somebody, then you can listen in on that somebody. And if somebody calls that somebody was now twice removed from the first warrant where you actually had permission, then you can listen to that guy as well. So you can listen to everybody. Yeah, fascinating, huh? Just the other day I made an episode and I revealed to you that in 2017, the US intelligence, that I include the FBI, useless as they are, that they intercepted illegally more than 550 million of these messages. Yeah, 550 million. You can make this 2 trillion now, today. Free country, huh? Free country. Tell me, what's the percentage of a terrorist attacks in the US? How many of them are the FBI actually behind it? How many? Including J6, by the way, January the 6th. How many? How many do you think, percentage-wise? I think it's almost half. Yeah, which means they are actually running the terrorist operations in your country. Anyway, so when you're South Africa, I mean, there are people of youth, I'm sure your liberals and Takara will say to me that, there's affirmative action and the revenge on the white people is because of things which happened in the past and therefore, it's justified. No, it don't. No. Two wrongs doesn't make a right, does it? No, it doesn't. And the question is, where does this end? It's been what? Mandela was released in 1990. It's now 2025, so we're talking what? 55 years later? 55 years later, and you're still carrying on. Yes, really, wake up. But anyway, the other shocking thing which Mr. Mandela was said at some stage, he said, your friends are not my friends, and my friends are not your friends. And what he meant by that is suddenly you started seeing people like Muammar Gaddafi, who arrived, and Yasser Arafat, and that's what's that Cuban guy, Castro, Fidel Castro, yes, apparently, so they say, the daddy of this Justin Trudeau. The guy who applauded that Nazi in Canadian Parliament, him. Yeah, some people say that his real father is actually Fidel Castro. I wouldn't know. If I look at his policies, I can flip and believe it, but I don't know. Whatever. Don't care. Whatever. So we were shocked. We were absolutely shocked by that as well, because for us, these people are the utter enemy. These are the people you kill at sight. And then Mr. Mandela would start his foreign policy based upon Ubuntu. And basically, as I said, what Ubuntu tells you is, if somebody comes to your kraal or to your village and you take him in, you have to take care of him. Now, it also means, of course, who will you allow there in your kraal or in your village? And it became very clear that South Africa, even though we were keeping friendly relations with the West were not in the color of the day anymore. How do you say that in English? Not the favor of the day. Yeah. You see, everything in South Africa is still based upon skin color. Sadly so, it's pathetic actually. I would have hoped we would have moved on. And in the armed services, we did move on. Hopefully the old generals, the ones who got appointed to be generals from nothing, from the unconventional forces, they're dying out now, thank God. And then I think young professional, young officers was totally loyal towards the Constitution and the Constitution alone, they will take over and the nonsense will come to an end. But the fact of the matter is, Mandela looked at the entire world through these eyes. And his eyes were totally like, what did you do? What did you do for me during my struggle years? And of course, he would say the US did nothing and the UK did nothing. They kept South Africa, the old one, alive, which is bullshit. But they did block a few votes there at the UN, which everyone is grateful for. But that's how we looked at it. And so that's why they suddenly decided now they're going to make sure that everybody is welcome, especially welcome those who are their friends, who used to be our enemies. Ubuntu is actually an interesting principle because it's also used in special forces and aircrew. Now you might ask me, how on earth is that possible? You know what? There was an incident in Afghanistan where I think it was a US Navy SEAL team got ambushed, 3 of them died, and the 4th one was on the run. The lone survivor, I think you call it lone survivor or something. And it struck me that when I read the book and I heard the debriefings on it, is that he made his way to an Afghan village, and there he integrated himself with the village people. He even went as far as to becoming a Muslim or sort of one, he was just playing the game. And it's part of your training. I mean, if you watch my video on hostage survival, which is available, you can just look at it. It's long, it's about 8 hours. 8 different videos, or 7, I can't remember. But it's a long video, long series. One of the things which you will do to survive is actually to integrate yourself with those who's holding you hostage. In other words, as I said, if they are soccer lovers and they shout for Liverpool or whatever, then man, you're the biggest Liverpool fan there is. That type of thing. So it's within the rules to fake interest in the Muslim faith or whatever faith they have, and then become one even, because that can save you. And yes, and at some stage, if you read the book, the enemy, the Taliban people arrived at the village and they demanded him to be handed over. And the village said, no, if you want him, we're going to fight you. He's in our village. And therefore, we have to take care of him. You see, that is the principle of Ubuntu. And so I thought you might find this interesting because it did lead to the Muslim Truce, about which I will speak about later. Not in this episode. I'll make a special one about it. Of course, it is totally denied. But what can you do? It is one of those things which actually exist. It's like bricks. Yeah, you can deny it. You can laugh at it. You can play your whatever ace cards you have. Yeah, tariffs, daddy. But you're still going to see your ass because we are there. Then a large part of the book, I also look at what is fascism and where fascism comes from. Now, there are other videos I made and books where I go into it in great detail as well, Oath of Evil, the war on Protestantism. But basically, fascism is something which comes from the Catholic Church, who is also known in the Protestant faith as the second beast of the Bible. That would be the books of Daniel as well as the books of book of Revelation. And you have to study this, and there is fantastic series on it, available on YouTube. Look for a guy called Professor Dr. Walter Weiff, who's very famous and was actually on Legacy Conversations as well. And I was actually on his show. I will leave the links for you here. But if you look at his series, Total Onslaught, I'll leave a link for you. You will quickly find out where fascism comes from and how they got to it. And it's actually from Thomas Aquinas, which some people call a saint, and I don't, but whatever, that's where you can find it. So I don't want to go too much into that now because I feel I have discussed it in other videos as well. But we do talk about it in this book also, about fascism and how it is supported by the Jesuit order, the Society of Jesus. I showed to you that Mussolini is actually the guy who restored the papacy. Yes, 1929. I will show you in this book how Pope Pius XI or 12 or whatever, he was actually a Nazi. You will find videos and pictures of a cardinal standing there with, the Nazi salute, that type of thing. Yeah, it's fascinating, these things. And it's of extreme importance because you need to know about these things because we're still playing very stupid games. And people are dying by the tens, hundreds of thousands because of that. But anyway, what I actually want to get to here is acoustic devices. Some people call it an AD, which for me means accidental discharge. So I don't like the word AD. It can also stand for ad domino, which is after Jesus. So let's rather stick to the word acoustic device. Now that thing is notorious in Western Europe, where the police they started using it as a riot control weapon to disperse crowds. Okay, I wonder what happened to all tear gas and a shambok, which is a whip, and a baton and a few horses, the normal crap which we start using in Europe. Must say to you, for us in South Africa, we face some real riots where people are murdered, necklaced, killed. Necklace, in case you don't know, it was Winnie Mandela, the late and former wife of the president. Even he couldn't stand it with her. That's where they would capture somebody who they thought would be a police spy or somebody they just don't like or whatever. Male, female, didn't matter to them. And then they would, of course, beat them up, almost senseless, which is perhaps a merciful thing because what's going to come. And I've seen this with my own eyes. I smelt it, I've seen it, and yeah. We will not forget about that. No, we won't. Then they would take like a pango, which is a machete, like a big knife, like a little sword, and they would cut at the back of the legs, cut those muscles so you can't run, so you're basically immobilized. Then they would put a tire around you, they fill it up with gasoline, and they light it. Yeah, there you go. Then you burn. Yeah, you burn to death. Yeah. And while that's happening, everybody is toying, which is a type of dance which I flip and hate. which they toy way around and they make these horrible noises. And the police tries to break through with their armored vehicles to rescue this guy. And it can take us up to 15 minutes to break through, because you're talking 10, 15,000 people. Well, this person just burns to death. And yes, it smells like pork. It smells exactly like pork. Sometimes the heat of the flames, of course, goes up because the tire is here across the arms. They would, your eyes would actually burst, and it becomes like an egg yolk, yellow yolk, what do you call it? Yellow, and it would stream down like this. Yeah. Next time you eat an egg and pork, just remember what I just told you. And it happened many, many times. It was one of those specialist killing methods, which was anti-apartheid movements are so proud about. So we urinate on Western type of riots. We don't think it's serious at all. But anyway, so the police, they actually think it's serious, and why not? And so what they do is they would bombard this crowd with sound waves, and they say it will make you nauseous, and it will affect your balance because of sound waves would disturb the fluids in your ear, and then in your eardrums, and then you're out of balance and sequence, and you start feeling very bad. So it's also called a sonic weapon, not only an acoustic device, sonic weapon. You find them on ships as well, especially where pirates are involved. Lots of pirates around the Horn of Africa, also very close to Nigeria. When here close to us in Thailand, you find a lot of piracy still. But they had some success with it. In 2005, there was a Liberian flagship, a motor vessel, Biscaglia, I can't even say that word, which fell prey to Somali pirates. And so they thought, no, we're going to use these sonic weapons. But the Somalis just started shooting at it. So yeah, so that didn't work well. And of course, the security crew was security people. They were not armed at that stage. Can you believe it? How stupid can you be? And so they had to flee. And Lloyd's of London, which was formed in 1686, they really said they think that these acoustic weapons are just bullshit. It's not going to work. Of course, they don't use that type of language, but that's what it comes down to. But nevertheless, people carried on using these things. They call it now LRAT, Long Range Acoustic Device, 2011, 2016, and afterwards. They used it with some success, where they prevented pirates from boarding a passenger ship. Yeah, okay. That these things working now, it's crap. Doesn't really work, but we go into great detail in the book. We go into great detail into it. And then, of course, came the Cuban story. Shame. In 2018, the US diplomats in Havana, in Cuba, or somewhere there, they started complaining that they're being exposed and attacked and harmed by microwaves. In other words, sound waves, acoustic devices, sonic weapons. They were being harmed in Cuba as well as in China, of course. And they suffered concussion like brain damage. Apparently, that's what the official report says. They would start hearing strange noises in homes and hotels. And they came to the conclusion that the most likely culprit is actually sophisticated microwaves or another type of electromagnetic weapon from Russia. And I understand each of them got $1 million as some kind of a bonus for their suffering. Yeah. Nice, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, taxpayer. How nice. Same with those guys who were held in Tehran with the embassy seats, 444 days. Read Codename Wrangler. We speak about that quite a bit, as well as the failed rescue attempt, Operation Eagle Claw, which was pathetic. But yeah, they also got $1 million, I understand. Nice to be a US diplomat, Very nice indeed. Well, most of the doctors actually refer to these ailments which don't exist as hallucinations and mass hysteria. So these people say that they were bombarded and attacked, and of course attacking a diplomat of a foreign country is an act of war. It's very serious. You don't do that. If you look around on YouTube or you know your history, you will know that when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor after being invited to do so basically by FDR, yes, the 8-point plan, the sanctions on oil, the sanctions on metal, yeah. I talk about that, I think, in Vet 101, but must be somewhere in one of the videos, in one of the books. You will see them actually leaving the country, and there's crowds of people very angry who wants to stone them to death, but the police protects them and they leave in the US. Now that's how it should be. That's how it should be. But of course, it's not. It's not like that. So anyway, then some scientist called Alexander Stubbs of the University of California at Berkeley, he made a study of this. In 2019, his report on the Havana syndrome revealed that the noises, I'm reading now from a report for you, the noises heard by staff were instead from an echoing call of an insect, the Indian short-tailed cricket. This actually agreed with a State Department report as well, where they said it's just mass hysteria, it's nonsense. Yeah, so there you go. Havana syndrome? Yeah, it doesn't exist. No. Don't talk your bullshit to somebody else. Go away. Be a man, man. Be a man. Man up. Stop being like a little woos. Oh, you know what? We actually have a word that starts with a P for people like you. It ends with a Y. I won't say it. It's disrespectful. Okay, but then anyway, you're also in the Britain, Britain is gone, by the way. The UK is not what it used to be. It's gone. I thoroughly enjoy it, but I also feel sad for them, I have to say, for about 2 seconds, and then I remember your concentration camps, and then I don't. Yeah, then I don't. But there are many places where they actually still use these sonic weapons. They have, ultrasonic, that's very high frequency. They have bursts of sound. Then they do that to get rid of loitering youths who are standing around harassing, threatening customers. Now, apparently, this frequency cannot be heard by people older than 25 years, and it weighs only about 15 pounds. It's outside restaurants as well, because they don't want people to stand outside to be subjected to the beggars. Oh, you find a lot of beggars in Switzerland. Oh, man, it is amazing. You can't walk 10 yards and you find some Romanian woman sitting there, looking very sad. And then they want money. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And you walk another 10 yards. This is in Lausanne now, where I lived for 3 years. County, Canton Vaud. Yeah, VD. Whenever you say to them it stands for venereal disease, they just look at you. They don't, the swine don't have a sense of humor, no, unless they're pissed, which they often are. In fact, they always are. It's the only way they can relax. Oh, shame. Such pathetic people. But anyway, it's the happiest country in the world, I was told the other day. Yeah, Switzerland. If you ever wanted to know the truth about statistics, just tell me that Switzerland is the happiest country in the world. No, it ain't. No, it's a shithole. But anyway, I found a lot of drug dealers there as well. And amongst those drug dealers, I recognized quite a few terrorists. Yeah, I did. And at some stage, was swine. They're gonna attack you. You hear me laughing. You hear me laughing, swine. I'm laughing at you. When that happens, I'm gonna laugh at you. Because there's no way in the world that you can protect yourself. And you people will say to me, yeah, but every man has a rifle. Yeah. They got a summer camp they call the army. Oh, shame. And they have a rifle. Yes, I saw many of them there in the cellars. They're there. You see them. Yeah, but they don't have bullets. Shame. They don't have bullets. And you'll say to me, oh, they're fantastic shots. Oh, yeah, really. If anybody lies on his stomach shooting at the shooting range, he flippin' should be a fantastic shot. But what happens if I start shooting at you? What happens if you're tired? It's dead of the night. You're very tired. You've been in combat. You have to reach deep. and now you have to start shooting again. Perhaps you should come to our training courses. We'll see how long you last, you swine. I'll break you. I'll break you. I think nothing of the Swiss army. Nothing. I laugh at them. They a joke, man. I actually saw them. And then they started killing each other at the Vatican, where they supply the Swiss guard. Oh my. Yeah. When they start screwing each other's wives and then they start shooting each other. Yeah, that's true. There was a commanding officer who actually got killed like that. Why? Because it is said, I don't know if it's true, but it is said that his wife was screwing everybody inside. Yeah, well done, Swiss. Anyway, these devices in Britain at the restaurants and things are actually quite small. It looks like a shoebox. But the ones on ships are quite big. They can be up to 300 pounds. They look like a dish. Much more powerful. And the police have them as well. You know, they also start using them now in riots and things. And there's a lot of riots going on in Europe. Oh, it's amazing. Well, we had our own system like that in South Africa, just for those of you who was interested. Whenever these crowds would actually start getting together and forming up, and they start doing this toy dance of them, you have to be family of, let me rather not say that. You have to be family of Robert Mugabe, I suppose, to be able to do it. I can't do it. White people can't toy. It's not possible. We had a few constables trying and they tore muscles in their asses, whatever. So what we would do is we would start playing Afrikaans music to them back, or even Barry Manilow. Yeah, but then it stopped like we were so disgusted. Yeah, man, we had fun with him. I think we had fun with each other. But anyway, there's more than 3,000 of these acoustic devices were sold in the UK to prevent what is called antisocial behavior, which of course today we have a two-tier legal system. I would advise you not even to forward what I'm telling you here to anybody else, because they might lock you up, because you're not even allowed. I mean, this is disgusting. I remember a few years ago, there were some of these migrant men who said they were 15 years old, but you can see, man, the guy is in his 50s, almost 40s, man. You can see it. You're not stupid. And then guess what they did? They just put a sail across so that you couldn't take pictures. Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, the reason why I mention these things is one of the ways which the C-130 is sabotage is exactly one of these weapons, which we have, of course, in very close vicinity of the aircraft, inside the aircraft, and it is causing disturbances for Angelique and Tilsong who's flying, in the sense that their asses feel like it's burning. That's quite a few jokes there in the book. And also, you know, they're feeling a bit disorientated and all sorts of things. At one stage, they almost certainly were thinking of just putting the thing on cruise control and just jump, leave the aircraft. But anyway, there is something interesting happening though as well, which I discuss in the book. I don't want to go into much detail into it, but that's the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, I believe in 1974, and there were actually two invasions. Now, what is interesting about that invasion is that both were, of course, NATO countries. But what is more interesting to me is that more than 550 Greek Orthodox churches and chapels and monasteries were pillaged, vandalized, and demolished. Yeah, there you go. Many of the Christian places of worship have been converted into mosques or depots for the Turkish army, stockyards, and hay barns. That's according to the Cyprus Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Guys, do you think it is by chance that these things are happening in modern-day Europe as we sit here? Do you think that what happened in 74 is also happening in Britain right now? It's happening in France, which is a Catholic country, of course. What you find so many cathedrals and churches and temples and things being burned down, and where they're not being burned down, they are turned into mosques. Tell me, do you actually think that's by chance, or do you think there's perhaps something behind it? Well, you have to read the books, because It's really fascinating because there seems to be a pattern here. And since there's a pattern, you know, you have to say it cannot be by chance because patterns are never by chance. Patterns are actually deliberate. It's actually deliberate. And so we're also seeing that now in Ukraine, and we're seeing it in Moldova, and we're seeing it wherever there's a modern day Western type of revolution going on with the CIA, MI6, whatever, Mossad also plays a role these days. Behind it, there's only one outcome there. They attack the churches and they kill the Christians. Why is that? Why? I want to know. Is that by chance or is it not by chance? Of course it's not by chance. It cannot be by chance. Again, I say to you, it's a pattern, and I would refer you not to only read these books where we touch lightly on it, but also to read Oath of Evil, the book which I mention absolutely all the time. It's amazing to me that people just can't see it. It is amazing to me that we are in the know. We can actually read the occult language, and we are looking for the Bible prophecies. We can actually see the fascism starting across the West. We can see it. It's being implemented. And whenever you say it, people get extremely angry, of course. But I do discuss these things in this book as well. It's a fascinating book. It's really a great book to read. It's very interesting how the plot unfolds. And at some stage, of course, Angelique does actually land that aircraft. I mean, she has no choice. And there is a meeting between the Spymasters where one of them is going to get abused. There's no doubt about it. One of them is going to get punched. Because you simply don't do this to somebody like Angelique, even if you try to save her life, because you have information that she's flying into a trap, and there's no other way for you to contact her, and therefore you force her to land somewhere, and you can speak to her and warn her and perhaps, save her. She's still going to react very badly, because there is something very wrong with the theory which I just explained to you, and I pointed out in the book of what's wrong with what I just said. It reminds me of the old FBI test, to see when they were still training policemen. I understand the police in the US, many of them are now trained by Israel, which is why they have these moves of killing people indiscriminately. And of course, if we've looked at the US police forces, the different sheriff departments, in some of my books, I think of Terrorist Takedown, as well as Safety Net. And we came to the conclusion that the US police can kill as many people as they want. There is nothing holding them back, and there is nothing which will happen to them. The chances of them ending up in jail is really remote. They will almost certainly get away with such type of behavior. So you see, the problem is here is that bad things are rubbing off on you. What works, for instance, in the Middle East is not to say it's going to work in the US, or what works in the UK is not to say it's going to work in South Africa. That's why I urinate on something called community policing, simply because it doesn't work in my eyes. And that's why you need a semi-military type of police in Africa, because, it's not only a damn criminal you can walk into a lion. Yeah, of course, not in the middle of Johannesburg, but I'll tell you what, if you read Mean Streets, Life in the Apartheid Police, the Mean Streets, book 2, if you read that one, or the Afrikaans version, Gewetenlose Strate, yeah, you're going to find out that we actually shot and killed a wild animal right in the middle of Pretoria, quite close actually to the zoo. He didn't escape from there, by the way. Very close to downtown, as you Americans would call it. Yes, a leopard. That's what we killed. It was all over the news. That damn week, we shot a 6.5 feet long Cape Cobra, which is horrible, that bloody snake. I shot one dead in Waterkloof, which is like the rich area. Shot one inside the house. And then came the arrest of a crocodile. But anyway, You can read a book about that horror story. So Swan 53 to me is close to me. It's the first Rebecca book, if I can mention it like that. He does go into great detail. There's a lot of things which I've left out for you because I really want you to read the book and to find out more, because it's an integrate story actually. It's really how it's woven together is fascinating. And the things we say about the fascism and the history of fascism and where it comes from and how it is implemented today is really, you should know this. You should be able to recognize this, guys. It's important. It's important because there will come a time when it is implemented, and that's when you're going to wake up to reality. And then it's too late. It's too late for you to take the precautions which you have to take right now, today, not later. Anyway, if you want to know more about these things, go to that series on of Walter Wyeth, of Professor Wyeth, Total Onslaught. There's a lot of other videos as well. And go and look at it. It'll take you months to do it because there's 36 videos in that just one series, all of them about 2 hours. But you'll walk out of that a different man. Your eyes will be open. So, Swan 53 is available in audio, Kindle, hardcover, softcover on Amazon. I'll leave the links for you. Thank you for being here. Spread the word. If you want, like, subscribe, the usual things. Leave a comment if you wish, as long as it's nice, otherwise I'll ban you. And if you need more details, just read the books or contact me if it's possible for me to assist and answer you. I will, or perhaps in a future episode. But really, I've said what I wanted to say in the books. So we'll speak again. God bless until we meet again.